My name is Thomas Hartman Stebbins, and I'm related to Ruth Thomson. She was my older sister. She and I had one thing in common. We were both passionate about missions. She was appointed with her husband, Ed Thomson, to Cambodia, where they spent 13 years. Ed was one of the best speakers I have ever heard. He'd go from village to village, but in the 13 years that they served in Cambodia, they could count on one hand the number of people that they had led to Christ. When Prince Sihanouk kicked all the Americans out of Cambodia, she and her husband, Ed Thomson, asked the Alliance to send them to Vietnam because the tribal group that they were just beginning to reach also lived across the border in Vietnam. A pastor and his wife came to dissuade them from going to Vietnam. You can't go to Vietnam. Vietnam's at war. And Ed said, we must go to Vietnam. We are immortal until our task is done. God wants us in Vietnam. The pastor's wife started to pull the clothes out of the drum that my sister was packing. She said, but you're crazy, Ruth, you're crazy. You'll get killed. And Ruth said, I'm not crazy. I'm constrained by the love of Christ. If I get killed, I get killed. But I must obey Christ and go to Vietnam. After learning French and Cambodian for 13 years, then they studied Vietnamese for a year at the Dalat School up in the highlands. They were determined to master the Manong language. And it was during that time that they were caught in the Tet Offensive. There had been a peace negotiation that both sides would cease fire during the Tet celebration. But mixed up with the firecrackers, there was the boom, boom, boom of rockets, the rat-a-tat-tat-tat of machine guns. And the North Vietnamese soldiers swarmed onto the compound of the Alliance where Ruth and Ed lived to attack the Vietnamese base behind them. Ed and Bob Zemer, who lived next door, dug out a garbage pit and made it into a bunker. Ruth and Ed left their house and went down into the bunker. Two of the nurses went to get help for Carolyn Griswold that was in one of the houses that collapsed. One of them came running back. She headed for the bunker, and the North Vietnamese soldiers machine gunned her, and she fell dead in the bunker. And to make sure she was dead, they threw a hand grenade in the bunker, which of course exploded and killed Ruth and Ed. I was first a bit angry with God, but it didn't take long for me to realize that He was fulfilling His purpose for each of their lives, and that there were those who witnessed by death as well as those who witnessed by life. And I knew that only good could come out of it, because our God is sovereign and all things work together for good. They covered over the bunker grave, and that became the grave, this grave site for Ruth Wilting, Ed, and Ruth Thomson. And I carved into that tombstone the verse John 12:24. Except a kernel of wheat fall into the ground and die, it abideth alone, but if it die, it bringeth forth much fruit. I've said many times they impacted many more people in their death than they did in their life. How do you explain the tremendous harvest that we're having in Vietnam without one missionary there? A growth from 60,000 to 1 million. Only one explanation. When they saw that the messengers of the gospel were willing to lay their lives down for Jesus Christ, they said, this must be the truth. And you know, when tribal people come to Christ, they don't come to Christ as individuals. They come as whole villages. And village after village after village, especially in the highlands, among the mountain people, came to faith in Jesus Christ. And today they are strong churches all over Vietnam because of the death of the missionaries.